Welcome to the last episode in this series of Thinking Tackle. I'm Hamidi and you join me at the magnificent Loggies Lake on the Mid-Kent Fisheries Complex near Canterbury in Kent. For this episode I'm joined by special guest Jake Wildbore, former junior British champion, and two lucky readers from a top carp fishing magazine. It's their unique chance to pick our brains on loads of carp catching tips. So without further ado, let's have a look at location. Now then, lucky reader number one, Gary Green. Greenie, new swim, first time at the lake. Notice this wind's picked up a little bit, which is encouraging. Yep. But you're faced with all sorts of features and options here. What's been the decision process?
Like I say, I've got this lovely little bay over here. You've got plenty of reeds, a bit of weed coverage as well. So I've had a bit of a feel around with the marker float. There's quite a bit of bottom weeds. Some bits are quite, quite clumpy as well. Yep. So I've decided in that corner right near the reeds, it's a solid bag and just present it right on the top of the weeds.
Well, you're quite lucky, aren't you? Because it's not like an open water swim with no sort of visible features. You've actually got quite a few areas to look at that are easily identifiable. So that's your first rod in the little corner, and with that wind trickling in there, that's bang on, isn't it? Now, right-hand rod, you've got quite a few options out in the open water there. What's your decision there?
Like I say, again, I was having a bit of feel around the marker rods. Quite a bit of weed just coming off that peninsula there where the reeds start to end.
Yep.
The other side of the weeds is pretty clear, so I'm going to fish a single hook bait over there and a small little scatter in the boilies.
Okay, now small scatter in the boilies just over the back of the weed. Is there any reason you've not gone further? Because looking right up the back there, you've got a lovely canopy of trees and the water looks a lot, it's in the lee of the wind, so you can imagine carp creeping in there, especially as it's been cold recently, and I know it shelves off quite nicely. Any reason you've not gone long at the moment?
I'm just trying to keep my options open and to see how it sort of progresses as the time goes on. That might be an option. If I'm not picking up anything from here, I might go long and hopefully sneak a bite from over there.
But for now, you're going to keep your rods closer in, leave that sort of area as an exploration area for the carp. Hopefully, right, well, bang on, mate. Looks like you've got two lovely spots sorted. I'll let you get that rod back out.
That's lovely, thanks, Ali.
Cheers. Right, a chance to catch up with lucky reader number two, Johnny Wilkes. Your first time at this lake as well. Now, you and Jake have been beavering away for the last sort of hour or two with a marker float. What have you found out there?
When we first got here, we spoke to a few people that fish the lake on a regular basis. They said that there's an old road that runs parallel with the power lines.
Yeah, so completely across the whole lake, I believe.
Across the whole lake. So basically, we sent the marker float out there, felt around that area. Kind of, it's really prominent, really gravelly.
Just clean, hard, lumpy gravel, isn't it?
I mean, Jake can tell you it was
really aggressive gravel. It's not just the general tip-tap. It really pulls the rod round. So
yeah, exactly.
It's just doing something a bit different, get off it, and it's like I say, every single person we spoke to said get on the gravel. So
yeah, that's a really valid point. So you come here, that's a very obvious feature, isn't it? The natural thing you're going to do, most people, would be to fish slap bang on it. But if you think every angler that comes to this lake, they're going to fish right in the middle of that old road, and the fish must be expecting rigs there. So you've decided to fish off it, is that right?
Yeah, we've just come slightly off it. It goes into like a clay, kind of smooth area. So we're going to stick the rigs straight on there and see what happens.
And Jake, this time of year, you know, the fish are aware that the natural food's soon going to disappear, if you like, due to the cold. Do you think they're more likely to feed in the sediment than they are on the hard gravel?
Yeah. I mean, like, there's not as much like naturals and stuff obviously now, and especially in the shallows is where they normally are. So it's just fishing just off it. It's like, I don't know, strange. It's like clay. I don't know if there would be much naturals in it.
Yeah, maybe where they've cut the road, where that sort of mud that falls off the edges,
it's just
that holds up. Now, are you going to put both rods in that area?
Yeah, to start off with, we're going to start on that area. It's a decent feature. We think that we can get some success from it, so we're going to put both rods slightly different distances, but both roughly in the same area.
Staggered along.
We just want to try and see a fish show to try and give us some sort of sign where to go, really.
Well, the conditions are a lot more favourable, aren't they?
Oh, yeah,
it was
definitely.
really cold yesterday. We've got a much bigger wind on now. There's a chance of seeing fish.
Yeah.
More importantly, guys, we've got some spots sorted. Let's go and have a look at some bait. Anytime you come to a new water, it is always a bit of a guessing game on what you should use to start with bait-wise. So, with Mr. Wildbore on hand and myself, we're going to run through a little bit of the bait that we're going to use as a starting approach. So, looking at mine first, in here, I've got a mixture of maggots and crushed boilies. I've got two types of boilies in there, just for a bit of variety. I think it's a spice of life, as they say. But, boys, firstly, John, why do you think I've got the crushed baits in there?
Give the fish an option, see if they're coming onto the feed, give them something substantial, giving them all kind of an alternative to the maggots as well.
Yeah, that's right, but as opposed to putting round baits in there, why would I use a crush one?
Oh, because they're probably used to everyone else on the lake throwing round baits in there, and you know, it looks different.
Yeah, a little bit about that as well, but I think that one of the main reasons, yeah, shape is important, but it's also by crushing the baits, you're opening them up, because a boilie's sealed, isn't it? So you've got like a capsule on the outside. By breaking it up, you're going to release more flavours, more smell into the area. And obviously I'm not putting in loads of it, you know, I've not been putting in a bucket or something like that. I'm going to introduce sort of maybe 20 spods. And Jake, as you know, 20 spods is not a lot,
It's
is
nothing, no, there's no food. If you went and tipped that out in a boat, it's just
It
no
disappears,
food. Yeah,
especially with...
if there's roach, rudd, tench, whatever, they'll have that straight away.
But the smell's going to hang around,
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, that's all you want. You want the smell to draw them in, but then no food items to almost fill them up, just to get them to drop their heads and get a quick bite.
Exactly, and you know, as the session progresses, if we start to get bites and it seems like the fish are feeding harder, then you could introduce more. You could introduce more solid bait, because the fish, you know, are eating. Okay, so you don't need little bits and pieces. You could put, you know, whole boilies in there, larger chops, maybe some hemp. But I mean, going on to your mix here, Jake.
Yeah,
you have got some hemp and stuff in here, haven't you? So
yeah,
talk us through what's in there.
With not knowing the water, I just wanted to, like, the first night I wanted to gauge what the fish almost wanted. Like, I've got a bit of boilies, crushed boilies, hemp, just a normal mix with like pellets, and then maggots. Like, got the maggots out there to try, and I think it's, at the minute, because it was fishing really slow, I think the maggots is the only thing they'll drop their heads to.
Yeah, I mean,
So.
Gary, have you used maggots much in your fishing to date?
Yeah, I have. I've used a few times, more times in winter than any other time of the year, really. Just because it's not a massive food item, it's quite a natural bait as well, and it's just, you know, they can just get a quick bite from it.
Why do you think, as anglers, we all start to use maggots as it cools down and the frost hit? It's like a natural thing, isn't it? We scale down in winter and we use maggots, you know? Do you know why?
No, I don't actually, to be fair.
Well, I think one of the reasons is certainly as the frost hit and it goes that, you know, a bit colder. I think the fish suddenly think, you know, the naturals are going to be gone soon. You know, I really do think that, and they start to feed more in sediment, in the silt, and they attack more the natural larvae that's in that silt. And I think maggots is a natural progression from that. So when all that natural food disappears and all they've got is boilies and pellets and hemp knocking around, you suddenly start putting maggots in the mix. And the carp are really interested again. Jake, I mean, you've done wonders with maggots, haven't you? On a lot of day ticket lakes in Oxford and stuff like that.
Yep.
Is it a stable part of your baiting approach now?
If I'm struggling to get a bite, it is. I always tend to try and take some with me. I mean, most of the time I try and keep away from them because they're messy.
Yeah. and they are quite expensive, aren't they?
They are, yeah. And if you can get fish feeding on boilies when they're having it, it makes it easy for yourself. If you get them on dropping on maggots and then messing around with zigs and that, it makes it harder for yourself and harder for the lake if the fish switch onto maggots. So
Yep. So I mean, you know, you've got a right mixture in here. You've even got some solid baits in there. So that's all about variety, is it?
Yeah.
And what will be your decision process? What would you present over the top of this rig-wise?
I started off with a little tiny solid bag with some of the marker feed that's in there, with a little bright popper with a maggot on top. And then the other one was just boilie rod, just to try and, like I say, gauge what they wanted.
And so based on whatever happens, you'll
bite.
switch over to...
Yeah, so that, as soon as you get some bites, and then just switch over to whatever works.
Right, brilliant. Well, there you go. Some chops and maggots for my approach, but then Jake's got a right little menagerie in here. You've got some hemp, pellets, maggots, whole boilies, chop boilies. That's bound to get the carp grubbing, and I hope it won't be too long before we're showing you one. Just trying to punt this fish back through, obviously weed and gravel. I can feel it grating, so the key is just to keep steady pressure. Obviously it's a horrible, horrible feeling. I hate it when it's like that. You instantly want the fish to come up to the surface, but sometimes it isn't possible. It's just a horrible sensation there. It feels like it's going to cut off any second. And this bait's been out there since yesterday evening. Just trying to ease this fish back. It's a hot gaining now. Just slowly getting this fish back through the weed now. Really horrible conditions. You look at it, there it is on the surface. I could just see its tail there, big old tail just poked over. Bringing it through all these shallow humps and bars and all sorts, you really puts your tackle through maximum strain. Let's turn my knees to jelly at the moment, because whenever you're filming this show, that first one's really, really vital. I didn't care who caught it, whether it was me, Jake, Gary or John. Just nice to get off the mark. You just don't know if they're feeding, what's going on, but a complete bite out of the blue. It's pulling, thank God for that. Just a massive weed bed in close here as well. So I've just got to try to just edge it back. Hate this feeling, absolutely hate it. Just got to keep this fish coming now. This is the key in weed. Don't pump them from the. Don't keep pumping the rod. Just keep the pressure steady. Keep the fish coming. I'll get Gary in a minute. He's next door. He'll come and do the honours with the net. Get him down. Work as a team. If you've got someone close to you to help net fish, there you are, mate. Net's just over there. Fish is getting closer now. There we go, weed over its eyes. You get out there, Greenie, son. Got it? Oh, there we go. Yes, get in. Well, a few minutes ago, Gary asked me, what happens if you don't catch a carp? Well, I don't have to answer him. Look at that, 24 pounds, 6 ounces. We've got the show on the road.